You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 340.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Station, and this the second and final part of the interview with Warren and Esther Sanders, who are 1 year through a 4-year around the world cycling plan. I spoke to them at the beginning of 2012, and in part one we discussed the initial part of their trip as they went through New Zealand. In this one, we're carrying on where they head to the United States and all the practicalities and fun they had there. If you want to read more online and look at some pictures while you listen to this, then Google the Sports Wool Diaries, where there's a complete record of their trip with pictures, names, dates, links, etc., etc. And you can actually keep up with them as they currently explore and continue their trip. Anyway, here's Warren to pick up where we left off last time and talk about heading into the USA. So arriving in LA then must have been a bit of a culture shock from coming from sleepy New Zealand. Yeah.
I think one of the things we've really learned is the visa system in America is Homeland Security. Very, very difficult coming through customs. And we only found this later that although you've got a 6-month visa sitting there in your passport, the amount of time you get is at the discretion of the person with the rubber stamp. And we actually talked to them, and they actually gave us 1 day less than 6 months, which became a problem later on. We went out of the United States into Canada, and they said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, cycle touring, and I'll be flying out on such and such a day." And they said, "Well, your visa runs out the day before." And, "Oh my goodness, what do we do?" I said, "Well, very much your problem. Is that going to be a big problem?" "Oh yes, that's a very big problem."
Well, they're legendary, the Homeland Security from different programs I've been listening to, about how obnoxious they can be at times. I don't know. There's no way to charm them, is there?
No, at the point where they're trying to sound you out, they're fairly harsh. Within 20 seconds of putting that into your passport, they want to try and find out if they can get you on Oprah when they realise that what you're doing, and that from a metre behind the border, the Americans are just charming people and great fun.
Well, it'd be best if I handed over to you really to tell me about perhaps the first few weeks while you're in America and the sort of cycling conditions and the people you met, and any particular stories that come to mind.
Yeah, well, we'd met somebody on the road in New Zealand, and we'd said, well, we're going to be flying into LA, and we kind of realized that we want to be up in the Sierras, and how do we get from LA to the point where we can start to cycle without being run over? And straight away is on our side on the team, and so we basically took a taxi out from the LA airport, having put the bikes together in the airport, FedEx the bike bags off, and then put the bikes into the back of a taxi and went out to Riverside. Yes.
And that was the sensible thing to do, was it, from a safety point of view, or
yeah? Everybody we talked to said, don't try and cycle out of LA. It's just not going to be a good thing to do. They were right.
And your, as I say, the cultural shock that you go through when you transfer over borders like this, what struck you as the biggest difference?
I think in LA, cycling out from LA, just Riverside, just outside LA, the fact that you can go from being desert to almost high Pyrenean cold within 1 day cycle, and that kind of feeling continued all the way through the States. That you got to be prepared for minus temperatures although you've started in 30, 35 degrees temperatures at the start of the ride, because you can climb. We did on that first day. We climbed, I think, 6,500, 7,000 feet of climbing, and got up amongst the snowbanks and camped, obviously, amongst snowbanks on closed campsites at the top of the climb.
As we were saying earlier on, the community, perhaps, from doing your blog and obviously the people you're meeting en route, just as much as any traveller does when they're out doing a trip somewhere, allows you to sort of build your community and your network. And it's interesting to hear that, like just exactly the same as us, the direction you were going in, there was somebody you met that could help you out in your destination. Did you find that the online community, the blogging, and some of the interesting services that were available started to change your approach to things at all?
Yeah, we put the first bike together. I probably should talk about the bicycles. We decided over the last 10 years we've had a couple of custom-made bikes, touring bikes, and in knowing that we were thinking about going around, doing a long, basically extended round-the-world travel, we got a custom touring bike done 2 years before we started out, for Esther that was, and kind of worked out the teething problems with that. And then I had mine built just before we left, and I actually started to write the blog even before we thrown our leg over the saddle. And in going online and creating some sort of online presence, you've got these wonderful friends all of a sudden that are interested in what you're doing, and their lives, what they throw into a weekend or what they throw into a 2-week holiday period are very much what you want to be doing, and they're superbly encouraging to you. Go around the world. I'd love to do that. Off you go, Warren. That sounds like a logical thing to do.
And what about the Warm Showers network? Would you like to explain a bit about that for people? Yeah.
Warm Shower. There's kind of two systems. There's Couchsurfing, which is an online database, almost a dating agency for people that want to are traveling around the world looking for accommodation. And the one specifically for cycle tourists is a thing called warmshowers.org. Absolutely extraordinary organization. We really weren't clued up on that until we got to America and started talking to fellow cyclists. So that's you go online and say, I'll take care of cycling tourists when I get home, but in the meantime, can I come and stay with you? And zoom in onto the map and look where you're going, and then there'll be these red dots on your route, and you send them off an email, and can I stay with you on such and such a day? And they'll say things like, but I'm not there at the moment, but I'll leave the door open. And you turn up at this lakeside multi-million-dollar house, and you're thinking, this cannot possibly be where we're supposed to be staying. And the only thing that we had in that kind of said, this is the place, was the monogram on the welcome mat was the right combination of letters to the person that had said, just the door will be open. And that happened several times. It's just extraordinary.
That's an incredible story and obviously true.
Yeah. I mean, you got to the point that the houses in that area were that expensive that they didn't bother with house numbers. It was names. So, I'm speechless. I just cannot believe. Then let yourself in. I'll be back later. There's showers. There's the towels, and extraordinary.
If I can also add to that. Obviously, not everybody has got a million mansion house where they can put you up, but generally people say, we've got a patch of grass where you can put your tent up, or we've got a spare room for you where you can actually stay overnight. very often people were actually cooking for you or even invited you, even though that's not part of the deal. It's very much a plus when you get that, but most of the people were actually doing that and were very, very welcoming. Other people were quite keen on cycling out with us the next day. And so, I mean, it's a great way to learn about their local cultures, because you obviously go through a variety of states there. And also sometimes they lead you on their sneaky little routes to the next place. So, accommodation was one thing, but actually getting to know the people and those local areas was another bonus that came. And I think Warren got to know how this warm showers is run. What were the numbers?
Yeah, today they sent us their annual report, and there's over 20,000 people involved worldwide, and their total running costs for the year is $800, which seems to me to be extraordinary. Very, very admirable.
There's obviously a massive value of goodwill going on there. The people that you stayed with, what stories did they have to tell about the peoples that they'd met that come through and use the service, as it were, or use their showers? Had they had any negative stories to tell, or was it literally 100% positive?
I think you occasionally you get the people that didn't, if the host was in their 50s and a 20-year-old turned up, then they'd find a little bit of difficulty occasionally in finding common ground. But then, hopefully, you've got the bicycle to talk about, and there was a conversation all the way through the night. But it's a tremendous organisation.
And did you use the couch surfing one as well?
Well, we tried to do that a couple of times. But between making inquiries, can we come and stay with you? Whether it was just our misfortune, but we ended up beyond where they were by the time they got back in touch.
There is also the website for the warm showers is very well organized, because they've got a map system on there where you can actually zoom into the area where you go into or where you are. And it actually shows the members or people that open their doors and gives their addresses, and you then contact them whether it would be all right to come along. So in terms of in searching somewhere to stay, you can be actually quite direct, and you don't waste a lot of time on efforts to find somebody. So you can actually target somebody very specific that is suitable for you. And it didn't seem to be that obvious in couch surfing. That's why we concentrated on warm showers.
So you're building up a lot of credit then for everybody else's trip when they come and see you when you eventually get back.
Yes. We've kind of vowed that we will throw our heart and soul into looking after people to repay this level of kindness. I would recommend it to become a warm showers host. I can't think of anything negative to say about it. Absolutely wonderful.
Were there any other online communities or online services that you've picked up on your travels this first year that you think would be worth a mention?
Well, I must say the one thing that took us a bit by surprise is how hard it would be to travel without having a computer with you. And we, time and time again, we were booking accommodation or checking for campsites by dropping onto Wi-Fi or 3G from the tent or just stopping at the side of the road. So trying to find replacement parts always worked out a lot better, with a computer. And I think that probably only in the last year or so is that possible. Where the actual weight of the darn computers have come down to a manageable size now, and you could do it from an iPad quite easily.
I was going to say, what computer system did you take with you, and what was the actual technical configuration you had?
Well, actually, we started off with a PC, and I'm not used to a PC. I'm a kind of Mac person, and I found it so frustrating. And so I'm now on a MacBook Air, which is absolutely the most wonderful thing. Every time we turn it on and it makes that comforting noise, we think, yeah, this is a nice piece of equipment. And it's very light, and it is a fully functioning computer where we can write the blog as we go along. Tremendous piece of kit.
So is that a sort of a 15-inch one, or have you got one of these super slim, thin little ones?
This is the 11-inch super slim. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
And do you find charging it, keeping it topped up, and the power aspects of your technology, did that prove to be a problem at all?
Yeah, in New Zealand, but there we were using a lot of campsites had power. This next year, we're going to try and work with the solar panels a little bit. So that's still to come. I think that may work. There's always places to find a little bit of power output. Yeah, the benefits of traveling with a computer outweigh the hassle.
You're listening to the award-winning UK Business Podcaster of the Year.
The home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for lovers of the great outdoors everywhere.
Podcasts are based solely around self-powered travel.
This is the Outdoor Station.
We could go on in detail about America, and Canada, but there's such vast areas to cover in a conversation. It seems very difficult to do that, and your blog does cover your trip exceedingly well, and I thoroughly recommend anybody should take a look at it. There's lots of nuggets of information as well as inspirational moments in there. But is there any way that we could possibly, both of you sum up in your own way your thoughts on America and Canada and things that a lasting impression that you have from that section of your trip?
I think both of us would probably use the word kindness. The Americans, we were offered so much help. They're amongst probably the hardest working people on the planet, and they do really want to. They step out and stop you and say, have you got somewhere to stay? Have you eaten? I think the kindness is absolutely number one for both of us.
Yeah, we've got several thoughts on that. Number one, where we went through both countries, New Zealand and the States, very often the countryside seem to blend into each other. I mean, there are certain outstanding places where we've been, but it's the whole journey was actually carried through the people that we met, whether it be the Maoris that welcome you or whether it be the Americans that welcome you. That was very, very special. And then the other thing that we came away from, specifically from the United States, we did what's called the Northern Tier route, which sort of runs parallel to the Canadian border. And that route is absolutely stunning. And you get such a great variety of impressions from both sides. West Coast, we went from the West Coast to the East Coast, went over the Rockies and then through the Great Northern Plains, which was a very unusual experience because we had to deal with weather and hurricanes and what have you there. And then coming into New Hampshire area, or the East Coast area, again, very different scenery. So that route going across America, the Northern Tier route, was really beautiful.
Yeah, I must say that the Northern Tier, this is all part of the system called the Adventure Cycling Association, which is an American cycle touring online resource. And they have, I think it's 47,000 miles of mapped routes throughout the United States. So that United States doesn't seem like a destination for cycling, but go along to Adventure Cycling Association online and just open up the PDF of the routes and just marvel.
It's obviously a vast country. That is an obvious statement to make. But I presume the politics and social politics that you've encountered as you moved slowly from area to area must have been interesting to observe from a third-party point of view.
Yeah, there was a number of occasions where we'd be sitting in a diner and people would come up to us, and you may wanting to help you, want to give you accommodation and look after you and take you out to see American life. And we always had to kind of hold back and see what are the politics out here, then what are the baselines that we can work to here before we start talking about freedom and the basic politics of it all. Yeah.
But what are your observations? How would they feel about their place on the international stage, and obviously their history with Bush and Obama and that type of thing, and also religion? That's another area which is very sensitive on the American front, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm even now being very careful to use choice of words. I think we came to the conclusion if their religion or their strong religious feelings are what made them the people that would step out from the sidewalk and engage you in conversation and want to be as nice as possible then that's a good thing. We had to, yeah.
Well, we tried very, very carefully not to talk about politics or religion, but just take on whatever party we were thinking about it. We just didn't look for confrontation. I mean, it was even up to the point. We were invited for a party that were really, really right wing, and you were cringing about their attitudes to Obama, and yet we were in other areas that were very left wing and very pro Obama, for instance. And then when you went into areas which is called the Bible Belt, I mean, I went along with one family just to experience what their church was like, because people over here talk about these extreme religions or these attitudes to church and, how that all is, and the big hallelujah, but, you have never seen it. And so I went along and I was actually very impressed. It's a general thing. If you don't go into these areas with a confrontation, but with an open mind in order to learn and to understand, they're very welcoming, and you just have to draw your own conclusion and learn from that at the end.
I think we had a rule that if we hadn't seen at least 2 Obama stickers in the house, we didn't mention Obama.
Right. Yes, I should imagine you soon have a yardstick on which to gauge the conversation.
Yeah, the antennae are there. But we constantly had good feelings from right wing and left wing. Tremendous.
And also, I think very often people were also concerned about the social lives that was around in those areas, where, for instance, the Indian reservations we went through, how people were thinking about each other from both sides. And then the other way where you went into these little towns that were actually almost falling apart, yet you had, the old loggers still living there and talking about the past time and the difficult times they face today. That was interesting as well.
But I suppose I should have asked you right at the very beginning. What was the emotional reason? Not so much the sort of you want to travel and see the world, but what inspired you to stop whatever you were doing for a living and actually commit yourself to doing this?
Well, I think that historically it was Blue Peter, right the way back from myself, but right the way back to John Noakes and several Blue Peter presenters, and that got me out doing the Pennine Way, and when nobody else around me was thinking of doing that, and then the West Highland Way, and then I think I got a National Trust Book of Long Walks just by accident. One of these book clubs where I didn't tick the box that I didn't want it, and that was the inspiration. That actually changed my life. Ended up doing rural resource management courses and actually worked as a ranger for Ben Nevis for a little while. So I was out in doing backpacking. Coming up to what got me out recently, I think it was feeling mortal, having been had a few bicycling accidents.
Yeah, it was actually the initial thing. Warren had some nasty accidents in the past that were a pretty close call. And we actually promised ourselves to do something like this before we are too old. I mean, you will always enjoy it, even when you're 70, but it just becomes a bit harder. And we were thinking that it might be actually really nice to do it when you're young and when you've got, or fairly young, and when you've got the strength to do it. And certain things were happening in our lives. People, unfortunately, getting cancer or even dying of cancer. Then this anniversary of Warren's accident came up, and then frustration at my work, because I had a pretty good job, that I gave up for this journey. And so one day I was coming home again after a 10-hour shift, and we just couldn't see how to get out of this hole almost. And then Warren was just saying, just let's go now. And that was almost a relieving thought that we just had to take a break and take on whatever we like. So, and do what we like and just make this trip now rather than just waiting until we're 60 or 70. And yeah, so far year one has worked out, really well for us.
Obviously, there's no regrets there, Esther, at all.
No. I mean, it's really good that you have worked, at least in my case, that I've worked for a really good company a lot of people can relate to. And it's also important. I think it's also important when you travel around that people see that you did have a normal life and that you can relate to them in their daily routine. The conversations starts off at a different point. My
conversations always are, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
That's always the opening gambit, isn't it? And I think once you had the idea, let's go and do a long bike ride, as soon as that idea is hatched, to have not done it then would be almost a terrible sin. As soon as that idea comes into your head, you have to do it. You have to do it.
We were talking before we started this about the affordability of doing something like this and the changes you have to commit to in your career, I guess, and life and lifestyle and home at the sort of age that you are. To do a trip like this, and you were saying that. I'm going to ask you the question on how you've afforded to do it, because it's the sort of thing that if somebody's inspired to do something like this, that it's usually the first question: how can I afford it, and is it possible financially? But you're also saying that when you're in the different countries in America and in New Zealand, people tempered that question at different stages of the relationship with you.
Yeah, in New Zealand. No, we were not asked once, how do we afford it? And that's very much a Kiwi way of dealing with things. A Kiwi will get on the road given $100 in their bank account. An American will be a little bit careful, cautious, and will want to know, what's this going to entail? The circle of friends you have back home, somebody will be, you can't possibly do that. And that's probably where the internet helps. You see people are off there doing it, and they're doing it on less than you have. And you just get out there and do it. You'll find a way. You'll find a way. Never put off anything.
So, if you don't mind me asking, in your case, then, what have you done? Have you boxed your house up and rented it out, sort of thing, so everything is covered financially, but you still own property, or did you sell up your entire inheritance and you're spending it wisely?
Yeah, no, we got a little bit of inheritance that we're travelling on, so that's kind of obviously you can only spend money once, and we just put our house out to rent, put everything in one room, and close the door on it, and it's turning over, covering itself. So we got somewhere to come home to. But hats off to the people that don't even have that. And you don't put off. You must get out and see the world.
The home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for lovers of the great outdoors everywhere.
It's all about getting out and having much more fun.
Moving on from the financial aspect to a little bit on the technicalities and equipment. Again, I suppose I should have mentioned this slightly earlier on for people, because I'm looking at some of your photographs now. But I see that your cycle is the one I'm looking at the moment. You've got yourself 4, it looks like Ortlieb waterproof panniers, front and rear. A front pannier on the handlebars, and looks like something strapped to the top centre of the rear cage there. Is that typical of your travelling now, or have you reduced the load more? Are you going simpler, or have you got more elaborate?
I think we're actually carrying at the moment more than we've ever carried, because we know we've got to cover everything from plus 40 degrees down to just below minus. And probably all in one day. And we know we've got to carry water filters, and that it's got to have a decent throughput. So that was a Katadyn pocket filter, pretty heavy piece of equipment. And we know we've got to cover everything. We've got to be self-sufficient. Your two choices are either you tow a trailer, which is very difficult relatively difficult to do, to travel country to country flying with a trailer. And we've always chosen to go with a straightforward bike and four pannier systems, and the handlebar bag for mission critical things like your passport, and which you grab off the bike when you go into a cafe.
And is Esther carrying the same sort of? She's very cleverly in the background of these photographs. I can't quite see what she's carrying, if anything at all. And you're being the gentleman and taking everything.
To be brutally honest, I think I'm carrying less. It should be that you work it out from your body weight, and I'm heavier, so I should carry heavier. But there's a certain amount of artist materials that crept into Esther's bags, and that's where a little extra weight comes from.
And so, are you happy with that? Is there something? Would you like to reduce it, or are you happy with the level of, I suppose, equipment and lifestyle that offers you on the road?
Well, we did realise at about four months in that we were sick and tired of what we were wearing, but I think that's just going to happen. So we were the tent is a little unusual. So we're using a Big Agnes tent, which seems to be it's worked very, very well. I must say that the equipment we chose over the 2-year period. And there's always that anxiety of trying to test it out without wearing it out. So the sleeping system is an Exped Downmat 7, which we came across Exped by a friend said, "Don't bother putting up your tent. I've got a tent out the back here. Just lie down on these mats." And we sat down and thought, "Oh my goodness, these are fantastic." So the Exped Downmats were for us, and we love them. Absolutely love them, but they are the piece of equipment that's failed on us the most. But we've their Exped's customer services have been second to none. Every time they fail on us, and without exception, we'll have a new one within 24 hours posted to us. And I think it's a technical piece of equipment that's going to fail, but we absolutely love them. We shouldn't do, because they failed, I think it's 6 times so far. But we found every single problem with them. I think they've sorted them out now, and they're absolutely wonderful.
So I was going to ask you both, actually, if you had 2 things immediately come to mind, and you possibly have already answered that question, but for you both, what has been the best piece of kit and the worst piece of kit?
Well, here we go. Combine is the Pot Cozy. Absolutely. Sorry about that, but it is the Pot Cozy. The piece of equipment, I think the bicycle, we were so careful in our choice of Dave Yates to make these custom bikes, and the fact that the equipment we've put on, we haven't had a single mechanical, and that's down to the choice of mechanicals, which is Shimano running stock, and really well made bicycles.
And Esther?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I did like my Exped mats I was sleeping on. Really, the other thing sort of pops into my mind. What I really liked, we bought a really powerful head torch. A Kiwi girl actually showed us this head torch when we were there, and we had these fairly old, clunky head torches, and we immediately thought this is the alternative to our old stuff, even though it wasn't old. So we spent quite a bit of money on that.
And that was it. A company called LED Lenser, and we realised you can actually cycle quite happily using that head torch.
Yeah.
It's just an extraordinary piece of equipment.
And then also the other thing I really like is 2 things, I guess, in terms of clothing. We didn't really use them that much on our trip in the States, or certainly, or even in New Zealand, because we didn't have the rain. But I'm wearing, when it's raining, in a Tura, what's it called?
Night vision coat. Very cheap. Tremendous.
Yeah, and really fairly warm, windproof, and certainly waterproof. I was even wearing that for my commuting. And alongside with that, we got these chaps, these rain trousers. And these combined are really useful in rain. I mean, we have been wearing that in the mountains and didn't necessarily overheat going up, or it didn't actually get too cold when we were coming down. And that combination, that was brilliant, actually.
Yeah, they're called rain legs, and they look exactly the same as cowboy chaps, and stop you from overheating. If you wear a full trouser on a bicycle, you will overheat.
Yeah. And apart from the Exped failure, but obviously that it still performs, but it's just leaked or whatever, you had a puncture. Is there anything that struck you as actually being the worst piece of kit?
Yeah, well, we used to have, the folding plates we were talking about earlier on. I've forgotten the name, Origami or
Oricaso.
Oricaso, yeah. There is a system out that is based on, I think by the same company now, but they just have these clips that fold into, rather than just buttons that you push together, these things were just folding into some grooves to make plates and bowls. And I must say, there at the end, they were only good enough for chopping boards. I didn't like them at all.
Yes. That's funny enough. I totally agree with you. The stud, the early model, we still have, and we hold on to them dearly. Fantastic design, but the folding version just didn't seem to work as well.
No, there is now. We found an alternative. It's not as good as the old design, but it's a step in the right direction. REI, the big outdoor shop in the United States, they have a version now that is also with clips. And so we bought another set from them, but they're not as big as the Oricano one.
Okay, well, we're now at you are now at the end of your first year, and you're obviously resting in Europe, I suppose, just for the winter period before you start moving again in Germany. Sorry, where you are now. I see on your list, year 2, you've got down Cuba and Europe and southern part of Sweden and the Baltic states. Year 3, Asia, and year 4, that very long list of everywhere else. You're quite content, you're quite settled, and quite happy to keep going the way you're going?
Yeah, I'm missing it dreadfully at the moment. We did a little run into to Germany from Amsterdam, 400 or 500 miles recently, just in December there. We can't wait to get back on the bikes. We kind of promise ourselves we're not going to have time off next year. We're just going to try and go from Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, and just shuttle back between the two of them and never have time off. It's we're back to earth with a bit of a bump.
Well, I must thank you both for your time in talking to us and sharing your enthusiasm and love and experiences of the first section of your trip. And I'd very much like to continue this conversation, perhaps even in 12 months' time, to see how part 2 went. But I do like to end with an awkward question, if at all possible, because it is such a vast subject that you've got here, and you cover it very, very well in your blog. But there are obviously lots of experiences and things that remain with you that perhaps you hold close to your heart. But of all the questions I could have asked you for you both, what should I have asked you?
I thought you were going to ask us what was the tune that was in your head, the earworm. And mine was "Supper's Ready" by Genesis, which was useful because that was 22 minutes long. I'm a prog rock guy of the Midlands, you see.
And yourself, Esther?
I really don't know. I'm just I'm plotting along. I don't know what, because it is such a maybe other than cycling, how do you stay sane? Other than obviously chatting to people. And I guess whoever's out there, they have different methods of dealing with their spare time. I was doing some sketching on the way, which is whoever can draw or does some music or singing or something like that. I think it's something you should get out there, because it's always a really great way to get to know people.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I mean, it's been truly marvellous to speak to you. We've spoken a few times on the phone prior to this interview, and it's been, every time I put the phone down, I think, I really should be doing something myself. But as you say, it's that juggle between earning money to get by and living life to the full. That everybody has to find a balance, and I must celebrate you both for taking the commitment that you've done to do your trip, and wish you all the very best for the next few years.
Well, thanks very much, Bob, and thanks for backpacking light, because I think you do realise that, but the UK is ahead in the outdoor equipment stakes. Years ago, when you went into REI in America, you went ooh and ah, but yeah, you and the retailers in the UK have put the quality piece of equipment into the hands of backpackers and cyclists in the UK. We're absolutely number one.
My thanks to Warren and Esther for taking the time to share their experiences and knowledge and things they've learned with this trip after their first year. Of course, they've got another 3 years to go, so maybe we should make this an annual thing and catch up with them at Christmas time, end of 2012, and see where they've got to and what's happened to them. We, of course, wish them all the best on the trip, safe travels, look after themselves, and a clear road, and very, very few troubles en route. Of course, if you want to follow the trip directly yourself and hear about some of the adventures firsthand, then as I say, Google the Sports Wool Diaries and you'll pick them up straight away there off the search engine, and it's full of the current records wherever they might be, and I'm sure any support that they receive online would be gratefully received. That's it from me this time. Thanks very much indeed for joining me. I'm Bob Cartwright, and you've been listening to another podcast from The Outdoor Station. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
You can now follow The Outdoor Station on Facebook, where we chat about each programme we produce, answer questions and discuss future productions. Why not join us there?
This podcast is produced and hosted by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.